Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Math Unlocked, and I'm your host, Mrs. Rhodes-Grierson. Today we're looking at transposition, which means changing the subject of the formula. However, before I can go into transposition, I must ensure that you understand what are the basic operations. We have four basic ones. We have addition, multiplication, subtraction, and division. We also have square and square root, and I'm saying this because you need to know all of these and the opposites thereof if we're going to be looking at changing the subject of a formula. So let's go over here and look at the opposite. The opposite operation allows us to be able to cancel an operation so that we can actually transpose. So if you have addition, the opposite of that is subtraction. If you have multiplication, the opposite of that is division. If you have subtraction, the opposite of that is addition. And if you have division, the opposite of that is multiplication. The opposite of square, that is square root. The opposite of square root is square. Once you know all this is the first step in order for us to transpose. Alright, so let's look at what if I gave you the equation px plus y is equal to z, and I say make x the subject. Now, I can take the approach of first identifying what do I want to be the subject. I'm going to highlight it. I want to make x the subject. I'm going to advise you to take that same approach. Highlight what you want to be the subject of that statement. I have a method I call the onion method, and I've heard it before, so it's not new, it's not mine. I want x to be the subject, and if this is the core of what I want to be the subject, this is the core. I'm looking at what is the first thing on the core. The first thing on the core is P. So this is my first ring around my core. The next ring on the core would have been Y. Now these are the two rings around X because this Z is on the other side of the equal sign. So it's not a part of the onion over here. I want to make X the subject. It therefore means I need to peel off those rings so that I can expose X to become the subject. It needs to stand alone. When we say alone, we're looking at this equal sign and we want X to be on one side by itself. So it therefore means that I need to peel, I need to remove. If you actually had an onion and this was the core and you were peeling, it meant that the outer rings must go first. So this means that I need to peel off the ring with Y. Y needs to go first. Why did I tell you about opposite operations before? If Y was being added, in order to peel Y off, I need to do the opposite of addition to get rid of Y. So it means that I need to subtract Y from this statement. But because it's an equation, whatever I go to one side of the expression or equation, I need to do the same thing to the other side to keep a balance. So it means therefore that I will also need to subtract Y from the other side. If that occurs, it means that this ring will be gone. And my next statement will be that Px is now equal to Z minus Y. So Y hasn't been eradicated from the statement completely. It has just been moved from one side to the next. Now remember that we wanted to make X the subject of the statement, which still means it needs to be the core needs to be exposed. I need to have it by itself, but this P is attached to it. I need to get rid of P. Now, therefore means that you need to know that Px actually has the operation of P times X. So this is the operation here. If the two variables are attached without any operation, they are being attached by multiplication. So that means P times X is equal to Z minus Y. How do I peel off this P? I need to do the opposite of multiply, which is to divide. So I'm dividing this side of the equation by P. To balance it means I need to do the same thing to the other side. Now notice that Z minus Y was on the other side, which is an expression. So the expression needs to be divided by P. So this P cancels this P from here, leaving us with x. X is equal to z minus y divided by p. It therefore means that z, x now is now the subject, because x stands alone on one side of the equal sign. It doesn't matter if it's on the left or right, but because of how we read, we want to read from left to right. So at all times, you really want your subject to be on the left so that you can read it in that order. But the essence of making it the subject of the statement is that it needs to be by itself. I hope that you would have understood that. So let us try an example. You're going to try this one and you're going to see, can you make x the subject of this statement? Now here is yours. You're going to make this x the subject of this statement. It says m plus qx is equal to n. Make x the subject of this statement. Try the onion method. Share in your comments. Put your answer in the comments. What is x expressed as the subject of that statement?